And it seemed to me, reading this book, I think it was interesting that Rhoden played college football at a historically black university. So it seems like, for me, a lot of this is tied up with the decline of sports or athletics programs at HBCUs and the kind of rise of these of athletic program and the growth of athletics at these other universities. So I guess how is how could things have been different, or how could they be different in the future when you think about the role of historically black universities in this?
The future is an interesting question because I think it's fair to ask whether those schools have gotten so far behind that they will ever be able to catch up, especially with the funding issues that some of them tend to have generally. The mistake that black colleges made was that they were not prepared for the day that they did not have the comparative advantage in talent. They did not prepare for that day. The day was going to come where the large white schools were going to integrate, and from there, they would become the more attractive options to players. And the black schools needed to find some sort of way to keep up or some way to generate revenue. As the game became more and more about generating revenue and using these programs, and let's be clear, it's always been about generating revenue. It's now about generating revenue, however, on a scope that I don't think anybody ever could have envisioned in the 1960s or the 1970s. They were not prepared to do that. The black college athletic programs, by and large, are poor at generating their own revenue, often poor at recognizing when something is worth the investment for the revenue generation. Like I've had ADs tell me about the difficulty they had explaining to their boards why they needed to invest in a scoreboard, because the scoreboard was going to have room for advertisements, and the advertisements are going to bring in revenue, and they need revenue to build facilities, because you're asking these guys to come play ball, and the facilities at the big schools are so big, because since they don't pay players, they put all the money they would have given to players toward recruiting players. So if you go to Oregon and see the flat screens all over the place and everything that they've got, and then you go visit Texas Southern, you're not going to wind up going to Texas Southern. So how in the world could the black schools generate enough revenue, especially in this current economic climate? How can they generate the revenue to wind up competing for players, the thing they always took for granted that they had?